Video Games Recon.
Hello and welcome. My name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and in this video we're going to discuss all the current Advanced Warfare weapons in this class and then pick the best or my favourite weapon in said category, and then create my favourite loadout or class setup for this category of weapon. First off, if you've already seen this intro in a previous video, feel free to skip ahead to the time on screen. Also, each weapon will be reviewed or discussed as the basic model and not including any of the upgraded versions. And please keep in mind this is just my humble opinion, and due to your playstyle, your opinion may differ, which is perfectly fine, and in such case, please don't rage out and lose your shit. Instead, feel free to post your thoughts in the comments. Anywho, without any further ado, let's do it to it. Okay, so as per usual, I'm going to pick my favourite weapon from this class. First off, let's discuss handguns in general. Like most Call of Duty games, whether or not you'll find handguns useful will depend on your playstyle and loadouts, as if you rock a lot of sniper rifles and LMGs, then a handgun might be right up your street. But for me, I rarely run a handgun aside from the aforementioned classes, and even then I don't use these classes that often, and when I do I don't always rock a secondary. So handguns can be very useful for close quarter combat if that's your bag, but in Advanced Warfare overkill is available from the get-go, thus questioning even further whether you should rock a handgun or not. So like I said, it's hard to say whether handguns are useful or not, as it's subjective and down to personal preference. With that, let's quickly go through the weapons before I pick my favourite. The Atlas 4.5 is a semi-automatic handgun with the best mobility in its class, and is a complete waste of space. This thing may as well be a BB gun as its weak sauce, and the less said about this Fisher-Price piece of junk, the better. The RW1 is a cool little weapon, in that it's a break action railgun with by far the highest damage in its class. This thing appears to be like a sniper rifle with iron sights, but due to its damage drop off at range, it's more akin to a shotgun with slug rounds. But either way, this gun is so much fun to use, and those one-shot kills are so very satisfying. The PDW is unlike its predecessor from Ghosts, and is now a fully automatic machine pistol with the highest fire rate in its class. And as such, this weapon reminds me of the machine pistols from Modern Warfare 3, and that's a good thing. Sure, it hemorrhages ammo big time, but it's so much fun to run around the maps with akimbo PDWs like a maniac. The MP443 Grach is yet another weapon to make a return from Ghosts. The Grach is now a 2-round burst fire handgun with the longest range in its class, making it probably the best handgun for the less adept players, as its range, ammo retention, good damage and ease of use make it a very useful weapon indeed. So this just leaves me to choose my favourite handgun. Well, the Atlas is fucking useless. The PDW is good but lacks range and struggles to hold on to its ammo. So that only leaves the Grach and the RW1. Well, the Grach is definitely the most practical and possibly the most useful due to its range and well balanced stats. But that said, I've just got to give it to the RW1, purely for the fun factor. Sure, maybe it's a case of style over substance, and not the most useful weapon being quite difficult to get the most out of. However, unlike a lot of other weapons of a similar flashy ilk, the RW1 actually works, both in terms of fun and effectiveness. So even if you're doing shit comparatively compared to other handguns and weapons, you're just not going to care when you're roaming around the map one-shotting bitches like a boss. So purely for shits and giggles, I'm going to give it to the RW1. Okay, so with that, let's get into my favourite loadout for this class. FYI, this part of the video will be less scripted and more off the cuff. So let's get into it, shall we? Okay, so this is my best handgun class loadout. Okay, so the handgun I decided to go with is the RW1, and pretty much just for shits and giggles. I mean, is it the best handgun? That depends on your playstyle, really. If you're like a decent quickscoper, or you're mad on like shotguns and slug rounds from previous Call of Duties, then the RW1's probably the handgun for you. But for the more, for the less adept players, for me myself, I only really use the RW1 just for shits and giggles, like I've said. If I'm trying hard, I do the Grach because it's a much more useful weapon, and if I think I'm going to be using my secondary at close range, and I'm not so much worried about actually it being super effective overall, I'm going to go with the PDW because it's in those tight little corridors. Say if I've got like a sniper rifle, for example, and I'm switching between the two, the PDW is probably going to be preferable. But my favourite is the RW1 because it's so much fun to play with. It's so much fun to use. The kills that you get with them are so rewarding. So yeah. Right, primary, because of course the handguns is a secondary, we've gone for the AK-12. Again, you could go with pretty much any assault rifle here because they're all good aside from the MK14. I'm not a fan of that, it just doesn't work in this game. The RX-160, that's a bit meh as well. I mean, you can use it, it's not a bad weapon, it's not a great weapon either. The other four though, they're all beast, and go with whichever one takes your fancy. So with this class I've decided to go a little bit more stealthy. I don't really think I've done a stealthy class. I'm not sure if my assault rifle one was. But yeah, so I decided to go a little bit more stealthy. So I put on silencer because it's got this weapon's got decent damage and range and everything, so it shouldn't hurt it too much. So I put on silencer and I put on quick draw because it's always good to get your your shots on target quicker, your ADS in down a lot quicker. So next up we have perk 1, and on perk 1 we've gone with lightweight because I always put that on pretty much, and low profile. I've gone with low profile because, like I said, we're going to be a little bit more stealthy, we're going to be a little bit more tricky on this one, so yeah. So perk 2 we've gone fast hands as usual. I like to put that on if possible. Perk 3 blast suppressor. It's kind of a standard with this game, I'm not saying you have to put it on, you can get away with it if you're rushing and things, but I like to put it on most of the time because the more savvier player will notice those little pings on the radar when you're jumping about like an idiot if you haven't got a blast suppressor on. So the XO ability we've gone with is cloak, and that's because, like I said, we're trying to be a bit stealthy, so we can get cheeky kills with that, and it can help us cross lines of sight and dodgy choke points and what have you. And onto the RW1. So the attachments for this, again, this is something I've ummed and ahed on. There's a lot of sights up here to use, and I've messed about with a bunch of them, and I end up finding that I prefer it without a sight. Even the RW1 scope, which is specifically designed for this weapon, I find I don't like them. I don't really use them. I tend to do worse with them. I think the iron sights on this are fairly decent, and everything else just seems a little obtrusive to me, and I find it harder to get kills. Probably because you're sort of more quick scoping than anything else. So I find rocking without is the best. So the only attachment I've put on is advanced rifling, and that kind of goes without saying. You want more range on a handgun basically because they don't have a huge amount of range. And the RW1 specifically has quite significant damage drop off, so range probably is going to help you out a fair bit. Probably hold on to that damage a little better with it. So I've whacked on advanced rifling because I think that will help out a bit. And no sight. I don't feel it helps. If anything, it hinders. And then finally onto the score streak. Again, we're going stealthy, so you could go UAV to see where the enemy is, so you can get kills a lot easier. But I decided to just disrupt things and just make it harder for them to, get kills on you, to know where you are. This is more, like I say, you're in the shadows, you're taking the shots from there. It's less gung-ho and rush forward per se. So I put extended time on this just because you may as well get the most out of it. If you're gonna build up to getting it, you may as well get the most out of it. It's quite expensive with an extra 150 to your score streak, but I think it's probably worth it. I wouldn't put anything else on. I mean, you can do if you feel confident that you're good enough to get those things, but it's a fair little build up. Well, 850 is not that much actually. You could put something else on, but I decided just to pass. I think you'll get a system hack more often if you keep it lower. So that's what I've decided to do. Unless, of course, if you're a beast at Call of Duty, then go with whatever setup you want. It's gonna whatever add-ons, attachments to this that you want. whatever suits you best. But for me, this is what I decided to go for. This is, you know, this is the sort of class for me. I've gone a bit stealthy. So basically, you can run around, you can be stealthy, and when that fails and it doesn't work and you're just pissed off, you can just whip out your RW1 and just have a bunch of fun and just run around like a fucking numpty, you know, pissing people off, trolling them and what have you with your RW1. So yeah, that's my favourite handgun class setup. But never mind what I think, what do you think of the guns in Advanced Warfare so far? Feel free to post your thoughts on the weapons in this class in the comments section. So, that just leaves me to say, if you enjoyed this video, please help support us by liking, sharing, favouriting and subbing for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.